you know, let's just stick to the issue at hand. And he responded that the crime scene techs did their job. He wasn't aware of any measurements. How does that take 20 minutes of discussion?
Your Honor, and that's the problem, is job. What is that job? How did they do it? Did they do it accurately?
All
what
right.
information did you get from the job?
Proceed. Go ahead. Go.
So what you're telling me, Detective, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what you're telling me is that you let the crime scene detectives do whatever they do.
No, sir. There was definite direction by me at certain points.
What direction did you give them at any point?
We had discussion over how to get some of the best quality photographs in the light conditions that were there. I specifically pointed out the phone in the bag and the items in the middle and said that's definitely physical items we want to collect to take with us.
Okay, so let's stop there for a second. In the lighting conditions that there were, what does that mean?
Generally speaking, the theater lights, even when it's on full lighting, is designed to be darker. So we were having issues with some of the quality of the photographs to represent what we were looking at. Things appeared dark, seats appeared dark, so we needed some auxiliary lighting to capture them.
So you certainly weren't telling them, hey, listen, let's find out what the lighting conditions are during previews, and let's get that to mid-1 and then 60% off the remainder of the lights. You didn't do that.
That was not relevant to the collection that we were doing because we were getting representational photographs of where things were, and we want to be able to show them clearly. Not so if we could have opened a sunroof, we wanted the sun to shine in.
So you didn't want to get necessarily photos as to what the perspective of an individual sitting in a preview would be at that time. You just wanted to get photos of what was there at the scene, at the time of whatever lighting.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the presumes that a camera can capture exactly what the person's perception is in a particular lighting condition. And this officer hasn't been even asked about his knowledge of cameras and use of cameras and what they can and cannot capture. So he hasn't laid a proper foundation to even ask that question. And there's been no indication he even has the knowledge to answer that question.
The question was very simply, did he? That was the question, did he? We haven't got into anything else other than did he do that?
Oliver.
Did you?
I guess you're going to have to repeat the question.
Did you ever go to the manager and say, hey, listen, I want to know what the lighting setting was for the previews?
No, sir.
Now, you became involved with the DVR issue in the security system, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you knew that Detective Busson was there,
Yes, sir.
competent member of cyber crimes,
Yes, sir. He's the first one that spoke to me about the video system there.
and you had Detective Lindsay there as well.
I don't believe we did. I believe Detective Lindsay went to a hospital to conduct an interview, but I'm not certain off the top of my head.
Is there anything that will refresh your recollection?
Probably not. My only real interaction, I think, with Detective Lindsay was after that day, so I don't recall him being there.
Did you yourself ever request to go and see the video system itself there at the Cobb Theater on January the 13th of 2014?
On the 13th, no.
Did you see that at some later point in time?
Yes.
And what room was that?
I guess I would describe it as the projector room.
When did you first see the projector room?
It would have been, I believe, on the morning of the 15th.
A couple of days after.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as and introduced as Defense Exhibit number 23. Is that the room you're talking about?
Yes, sir. I remember that there was also kind of like a very long room that included projectors, and that was off to the side.
Now, your position is that you directed Busson to take care of the issues with surveillance equipment.
I didn't direct him, sir. I think he had come to me probably mainly because I was the crime scene detective at that point, and he told me he'd already made a request to the general manager to capture video there from the various cameras, and I know there was some discussion, and then at that point, I think Detective Basone took on another role and had passed that duty off to me to follow up to get footage.
So he passed, your testimony today is that he passed it to you. You didn't tell him, hey, I'm taking over that. That was not your...
Honestly, I mean, Detective Basone and I, it's not like an issue of rank. We would have come to some agreement. I can't honestly remember if he said, hey, you do it, or I said, I'll do it, but there was an acknowledgement, yes, that I would take the responsibility of collecting the footage later.
Why not Basone? He's in the cybercrime unit.
Because it wasn't available at that time, and that was part of the information that Detective Basone gave me, is that it was going to take several hours to back up the footage.
So you're telling this court today under oath that Basone told you, I spoke to management, and the film, the video film, is not available to you?
Well, the backup copies that we requested weren't available.
What about the film? You want to go see that film as quickly as possible?
At the request we had made at the time was to capture all recorded footage of the entire theater, which is multiple cameras, for, I believe, Detective Basone had told him an hour or two, because at the time, we didn't know what may have been captured. We didn't know if there could have been a previous argument in a hallway, so he had asked them to back up all of that footage for us to review.
And that was going to take an hour or two?
Well, no, it most likely would have taken several hours, but I know at the time...
But Detective, you didn't want to see what was captured in Theater 10?
Eventually, once we had the footage, yes.
Well, why not go see it right then and there?
At the time that I was involved in the crime scene, I'm physically involved in what's going on there. Detective Basone told me that all of the footage was being backed up, which is typical to our policies and procedures and how we collect the video, and you can't generally watch the video and back it up at the same time.
So are you telling me, did you ask Detective Basone, should we let somebody else do this, or can you do it yourself?
Did I ask Detective Basone if he could do it himself?
Yeah, he's
No,
a
sir.
member of your investigative group. Detective Basone, you're the cybercrimes unit. Can you actually copy what we need here?
I don't know if I had discussions with Detective Basone and also with the manager, General Manager Tom Peck, so I'm not sure exactly who told me, but I was aware that their IT director or the person who ran the system was backing the stuff up off-site. So with that being the case, there was not a need, nor you could not do both at the same time to have Detective Basone doing it back up.
Did you know who this person was that was, quote, backing up?
At the time, no.
Did you know anything about his competency?
I believe him to be the IT director for the company at that
No,
point.
do you know about the level of his competency?
I can only assume that being the IT director of such a large company, he's a pretty competent person, but I did not personally know him.
Did you know what his motive was? Any motive. You know, he's a corporation, right?
Yes, sir.
You know, did you get on the phone and say, let me talk to this guy myself?
At that point, like I said, that Cobb was assisting us with things. They were being very cooperative, so I took the general manager, I guess, at his word that that was happening.
Now, you would agree that in your work there as a crime scene detective, that there was nothing in your investigative work that you did there at the crime scene that gave you any indication of what happened inside the theater, correct?
I guess I would disagree with that, sir.
Okay. Well, then tell me what you did there at the theater that gave you an indication of what happened.
Some of the items of physical evidence, I guess, like I said, the popcorn on the floor, and knowing the overall story that the popcorn had been thrown, it appeared to be on the floor, appropriate position to where I'd expect.
Popcorn? Next.
Yes, sir. Other various items of blood evidence that were in the row where Mr. Olson had kind of collapsed down in there.
Okay, blood.
I guess I don't know specifically what
Anything
else. I mean, I guess it's hard to just surmise. I mean, we took a lot of photographs of all of the seating to try to represent best for witnesses in the future to point out where they were. We knew generally that there were witnesses seated around them.
Well, that's an important question. That's where I'm getting at. It's important to specifically determine where witnesses are seated, correct?
As best we could, yes, sir.
Well, the witnesses were there.
Well, not in the crime scene, no, sir.
No, but they were there in the theater, right?
At the time that I was doing the processing, I would imagine that most of them had been interviewed and had probably left, but there could have been some there as well.
But did you ever try to elicit specific information from a witness so that that witness could even go into the crime scene and say, see that chair right there? That's the one that I was sitting in.
No, sir. Again, we limit the traffic through the crime scene, and we had taken the best representational photos we could to try to follow up with that later.
Because sometimes you need to try to verify whether a witness could even see or hear what the witness is purportedly telling you, right?
Yes, sir, at some point.
And sometimes it's very important, especially in an emotional scene, right?
I guess it would be equally important in any scene, sir.
Was this a scene that you perceived that witnesses would be emotional?
Yes, sir, I would say a shooting event would be pretty traumatic to most people.
Especially in the theater?
I don't think especially in the theater necessarily, just most people aren't exposed to anything like that anywhere.
Now, 2 weeks after this incident was the first time that you saw a photograph where you noticed some redness to the eyelid in the corner of Mr. Reeves's left eye, correct?
I do remember at some point seeing some scene photos that were taken of Mr. Reeves, as well as some booking photos. I don't know exactly when that was, though.
And that's what you noticed from those photos?
I don't specifically remember. I remember one of the photographs that I had seen was somewhat out of focus. I don't recall more specific details past that.
One important thing is that at no point in time, you said that you were being given information from law enforcement who were conducting interviews, correct?
Generally speaking, so like I said, the sergeant...
What does generally speaking mean?
Well, throughout the course, this is obviously a very long investigation. It involved many, many people, because many more detectives responded to this than in a typical case because of the way the call had come in.
But I'm talking about only January 13th. Let's not go beyond that. I'm talking about January 13th. I want to know who gave you information that you were trying to use or did use there in your crime scene investigation.
I spoke to many, many people that day. I don't necessarily recall everybody, and Detective Harris would have been the person that I communicated with most often. But I'd seen most of the detectives that I work with at the agency at some point.
And so what you're telling me is I can't remember anyone that you actually spoke to and gave you any information.
I remember seeing Detective Moyer. I remember seeing Investigator Garrison. I remember seeing...
No, not seeing, talking.
And talking to...
Okay, well, these are people that I want to know, what information did Moyer give you? What information did Garrison give you?
You at one at a time?
If you remember.
What you want to know? I remember speaking with Detective Moyer. He and I were together most of the time.
Well, that kind of doesn't count.
Well, there were times, obviously, he was kind of shadowing me, that he was going back and forth from inside the crime scene out to communicate with the bosses. So,
let me shortcut this.
Okay.
On January 13th, 2014, at no point in time did anyone indicate to you that they had interviewed Joanna Turner, who said that she remembers seeing Mr. Olson with a dark object in his left hand and doing a quick motion, as I've just described here on the record, which I would describe as a quick throwing motion, but certainly not going in the full range of motion with my hand going down?
No, I definitely didn't speak to anyone about Mrs. Turner's statements.
And nobody had told you that?
Not that I recall.
In fact, on January the 13th of 2014, nobody had even told you that Mr. Reeves had possibly been struck with a phone.
I believe probably by the end of the day, I was aware of that at some point. Again, it was a very prolonged investigation. I know while I was working inside the physical crime scene, I don't remember anyone bringing that to my attention.
What's that? You don't remember anybody bringing it to your attention?
Correct, sir.
So the answer is no.
You said any time on the 13th, sir, and I would say most likely at some point later on that day, I had probably been...
You mean after you were done with the crime scene?
John, would you ask him to let that witness?
I apologize, I didn't mean that. I just wanted to... You mean after your...
Yes, sir, that's what I had just stated while I was working in the crime scene. I don't remember anyone bringing that to my attention, but at some point during that day, the investigation continued, and I probably became aware of it.
Now, had you heard by that time that there was an allegation that Mr. Olson had made a statement in that theater that he was, quote, texting, apologize, Your Honor, his fucking daughter?
I remember at that time somebody saying he was texting his sick daughter, is what I recall.
Sick daughter, not fucking daughter, sick daughter.
That's what a sick daughter is what I recall. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so now the issue of texting, because Mr. Olson is a participant to the shooting incident, you want to capture whatever texting took place, right?
At that time, we were processing the scene for the physical evidence, and we had not made a determination one way or the other what we were going to do for digital processing at that point.
And you didn't even know whether this particular phone that was found immediately after the shooting in between my client's legs, you didn't know whether that phone belonged to Mr. Olson.
Correct. At that time, we weren't positive as to who it had belonged to, so we collected it for further.
Well, you did a bit more than collecting, didn't you? You allowed one of your forensic techs to actually turn off that phone.
I, at some point, probably instructed her as that's the proper way to collect digital evidence. Yes, sir.
So you think here that the proper way of preserving the evidence on that phone is to turn it off?
To preserve the digital evidence that's on the phone, yes, sir.
So why not have Busson handle that, not the forensic tech? He's cybercrimes, right?
If we were going to do the data extraction